Peach's Day Off is one of 10 showdown minigames in Super Mario Party Jamboree. In this game, there are 3 different rounds. The first, you bring presents to Peach. The second, you give her donuts. And the last, you're putting gems into a cannon. Anyway, today I'll show you the best strategies to get first place, if not guaranteed, then at least consistently.
Round 1.
As you'd expect, we'll start with the first round. Here, each player has 5 presents, worth 3 points each. But if you're the one who reached Peach as a Jamboree Buddy in the main game, then your bottom present will be worth 10 points instead. Your job is to make it to the end of the path with as many presents as possible. If you are hit by a Biddy Bud, that's actually their name, then you'll lose a present. You can also bump into others and get pushed back quite far. This is good if you want to sabotage someone. The first round is, in my opinion, the most interesting of the 3, because while it looks like the Biddy Bud's movements are random, they actually follow a set path, and it's always just 1 or 2 predetermined paths. And I will tell you beforehand, the left wall is always the best place to be. No matter what patterns or variations, the left wall always has a severe advantage. Even if you are on the other side of the area, you should still make your way to that spot immediately. But if that spot is starting to get too crowded, then you may want to stick to the right wall instead. Anyways, there are 12 to 14 Biddy Buds in the first round, depending on RNG, and I'll show you one at a time what each pattern does. The first one will spawn directly in front of player 2 or 3, then take a sharp turn right. Move to the left wall to avoid. The second one will spawn in front of players 2 or 3, whichever the first one did not. If you've already moved left, then you should be safe. The next Biddy Bud will cross the path from left to right. Sometimes 2 sets will cross instead. Hang back, and when the first one passes, pass between the 2 Biddy Buds. If you fail to do so, you will almost certainly get hit. The fourth will always follow the same path, zigzagging left and right on the right side. Hug the left wall to avoid. This one will either come in 1 or 2 sets. One set will always appear in the middle left, and the other will sometimes appear on the middle right. Either hug the left wall or walk forward in the center path to avoid it. This one always appears at the left wall and seems to be specifically set there to get anyone who is trying to hug the left wall. It will travel up the left wall, turn right, travel downwards, turn towards the wall again, then head back up, making a square. This seems mostly there to throw you off, but is easy to avoid if you know it's coming. Don't move right because a different set of Biddy Buds are set up to hit you if you try to move that way. Instead, hold back until the Biddy Buds start to move downwards on the screen, then just follow along down. After this comes a massive wave of Biddy Buds, where you are most likely to lose your presents. The first is just below the previously mentioned Biddy Bud, and has its path set to hit you if you try to flee right to avoid the previous one. Hug the left wall or right wall to avoid it. A second may spawn directly below it too, following the same path. The next 2 are crossing Biddy Buds. The first one will always travel from right to left, while the second one will either travel from right to left or left to right. These 2 are easy to dodge, but hug the right or left walls anyways for the next one. This is a tricky one because it will either weave between the 2 crossing Biddy Buds, or just after them. This one is solely there to hit whoever tried to get past the crossing Biddy Buds through the middle. Like usual, hug the left and right walls to avoid. Also, if you hang as far back as possible, you can just barely weave between the crossing Biddy Buds and this one at the last moment. After that, things mellow out again. This one comes from the left side and zigzags from right to left pretty widely. Right side is the safest, but you can just run past and you'll be fine. And the last one is either on the middle right or the rightmost side. This one took the same pattern every time, except once. Usually it zigzags in the middle, so the left and right sides are safe, but at one point it instead turned to the right edge, went down, went about 2/3 to the left edge, then moved back up. The left wall is obviously the safest bet no matter which one, but if you're on the right side, just hold back a second, then move down quickly when it heads downward. And that's all of them. But yeah, for some reason they just barely placed anything on the left side, so the left side is pretty much free. In the second round, you have to bring donuts to Peach. There are 3 trays on the table. If you are the only one to choose that tray, then you get 2 points for every donut on the tray. Going over some quick statistics, the master CPUs would go for the largest tray about 50% of the time, the middle 33% of the time, and the smallest tray 16% of the time. That's roughly a 1 in 2 chance, a 1 in 3 chance, and a 1 in 6 chance respectively. Assuming those are the actual chances, we can expand that and find a roughly 60% chance that none of the CPUs will choose tray 1, 30% chance for tray 2, and a 12.5% chance that none will choose tray 3. Also, those odds do exceed 100%, but that's due to some overlap. For example, if all 3 CPUs choose tray 3, then that adds to the tray 1 and 2 percentage. We also know the average points each tray will give between the 5 rounds, since this part is consistent between each game. Tray 1, on average, will give 2.8 points, tray 2 will give 5.2 points, and tray 3 will give 8.4. If you multiply this by the chance of actually getting the tray, we find that if you choose one tray consistently, for each round, you'll get on average 8.4 points if you choose tray 1 every time, 7.8 points for tray 2, and 5.25 points for tray 3. These are, of course, rough statistics and probability, so take it with a pinch of salt. But what I am getting at is that tray 3 is a bad idea. Never choose tray 3 because, while sometimes you will get lucky, you are much more likely to lose out by doing so. So your first thought after looking at that is that you should choose tray 1 every time. But you should also consider that tray 2 earns you nearly as many points despite how often the enemy chooses it as well. In fact, the CPUs will earn rewards from tray 2 more often than they would from tray 3. So if you choose tray 2 every time instead of tray 1, you will earn nearly as many points and block CPUs from earning any points from tray 2. So, long story short, tray 1 gives you the most points, but tray 2 also stops the CPUs from earning as many points, and tray 3 is always a bad idea. Moving on to the final round, you gain 5 points for every gem of the correct type you place in the cannon. Peach will change the type of gem once all gems are gone, or 10 seconds have passed. This is the round where the master CPUs shine. Besides the first 2 seconds in the round, they beeline it directly towards the correct gem and back to the cannon with no mistakes. The gems fall completely randomly and some may end up clear across the stage from you. Fortunately, there are a few things you can do to improve your chances. First is, each time Peach chooses a gem, you will always be able to grab at least one of that type. There are enough to go around, so each time Peach calls out a gem, make sure to grab at least one. If you think you cannot get a second gem in time, don't try. While the CPUs are grabbing their gems, grab others and place them closer to your cannon. This advice does have a few caveats though. First is that this works much better if you have your cannons on the end, so first or fourth player. If you are first, place the gems left of your cannon. If you are fourth, place them on the right. That way, nobody is closer to the gems than you are. Second and third will have to place their gems in front of Peach and hover over them when you think Peach is about to change gems. Second is to only bring one type of each gem near your cannon. By the time you pick up the gem and place it in your cannon, an enemy will have already snatched up your second gem and placed it into their own. Also, be very careful not to put the gems too close together or else you may pick up the wrong one by accident. By the time you place your gem back down and go to grab the correct one, it will already have been snatched away by an enemy. And the last bit of advice is timing and positioning. Remember when Peach last changed gems, and watch how many gems are left. When an enemy has picked up the last gem, get yourself into a good position and drop whatever gem you're holding. The animation for picking up and dropping gems is long, at least by this game standards. You can be halfway across the stage by the time the animation finishes. The last round is easily the most important, getting you more points than both the previous rounds combined. If you need to practice one in particular, it's this one. Anyways, that's it. Hope you found this video helpful. Leave a like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.